Okay, our next talk comes from Shadow Wizard, developer of Cauldron, a vendor of enchanted socks. I think there might still be some of those around, right? If you're looking for some, I picked up some yesterday. I'm very proud of that. And representing Iceland, we have Dagur with his talk, Bringing DeFi to Bitcoin Cash.
How does this work? Oh, there we go. Okay, so I'm Dagur, and I'm a BitcoinXT developer. And as you said, I recently go by Shadow Wizard, number one, as the wizard behind Cauldron DEX. I started my involvement in Bitcoin Cash in 2015. Back then it was just called Bitcoin. And eventually I quit my day job to work full time. I worked on BitcoinXT at the time, which was the big blocker node trying to increase scale Bitcoin. But in more recent years, I've done Flipstarter, Bitcoin Cash Node, Bitcoin Unlimited. And this year, the last year, I've been focusing on DeFi on Bitcoin Cash. Or more specifically, Cauldron. So, with great token support comes great power. And thanks to the many updates we've had through the years by people in this room, and unfortunately some people that aren't here I would like to meet, we were able to make Cauldron DEX. So thank you. The brewing started in Italy. I was hanging out with the Bitcoin Unlimited guys, and I was talking with Andrew Stone, who is the lead developer of Bitcoin Unlimited. And he was teaching me about the Uniswap contract. And to me, it had been like a black box mystery, some kind of magic. And I realized how conceptually simple it was when he explained it. It's really not black magic. And he's a professor, and he actually hands out assignments to his students about how to make a Uniswap contract. And I asked for this assignment, and I did the assignment. And that's how I got comfortable with the whole process of it, I would say. But that was for Ethereum. And Ethereum is different. And the contract was kind of large. It didn't feel like a good fit directly to Bitcoin script. So we had to boil it down to something else. And when you boil it down to its core, it's basically this math formula. I mean, this is the heart of a Uniswap contract. This sets the price between two assets. And as I was thinking, how can I make it more simple? How can I make it fit into a Bitcoin script? It came to me that you can actually fit two assets in a single UTXO. A single UTXO can hold both Bitcoin Cash and a cash token. And when you have everything in a single UTXO, it makes this contract much more simple than if you have to combine many UTXOs. And because it was so simple, you can also add many contracts into one transaction, which means you can interact with many liquidity pools at the same time. And that means you don't have to pool all the user funds together. Like on Ethereum, you could deploy one contract, and then you pool all the user funds into this one contract. But you don't have to do that when you can just trade with hundreds of contracts at the same time. So yeah, where was I? Yeah, and because you don't have to pool things together, you don't need a receipt for like your share of a liquidity pool. So you don't need LP token. So we removed that as well. And in the end, you have a simple contract that is 100 bytes in length and can do the same thing. It's perfect fit for BitcoinScript. I was originally going to do this for Bitcoin Unlimited, for Nexa, but my heart is with Bitcoin Cash. So here we are. So let me take you on a small journey on how Cauldron came to be. So first we have to rewind the clock about 1 year back. And I had recently added cash token support to Bitcoin Unlimited. I didn't add the upgrade, but I did it to Bitcoin Unlimited. And I went to my friend Halvor. He's there. And I told him, and he was like, very cool. Yeah. And I told them I wanted to assemble a team because we want to make the world's fastest DEX. And I asked him, are you in? And thankfully, his answer was, can you guess it? Yeah, okay. Yes. Oh. And time was of the essence. Cash token was just around the corner. And we wanted to be the first and be the best. And so we did. We assembled a team. It was me, him, and 2 other people, Ken and Håvard. They have created a centralized exchange in Norway, one of the biggest ones. It's time to let them do freedom tools instead. And so we went on a journey, and we traveled to farmlands of Norway called Trøgstad. And we hacked throughout the weekend. We took a few side quests. We visited Avi the farmer. Avi the farmer loves freedom and self-sustainability, and he agreed to sell us some eggs for Bitcoin. And by the end of the weekend, we were able to turn this prototype I had on my computer into this alpha version. And it worked great. But we needed a token, because what is an exchange without a token? And cash tokens was very new. I think it was basically just Doge Cash. So we made SOC. And you can redeem SOC for a real-world asset. It has intrinsic value. Or if you don't want to share your shipping address with us, you can also enchant it into a magical NFT. But why? Why make a decentralized exchange on Bitcoin Cash? Besides that, it's possible. Well, there are some benefits, because Bitcoin Cash has a different architecture from Ethereum. And this architecture provides you with, it's fast. It's the original simple Satoshi design, which is fast. It scales well. And it provides a better user experience. And I will tell you why. So consider these 2 alternative blocks. It's one block, but it's 2 alternative methods to arrange transactions within. And most of today's DeFi runs on Ethereum. And on Ethereum, transaction order matters. Because on Ethereum you have what's called state variables, which is a type of global state. And who gets to middle or modify this global state depends on who's first in a block. So this is basically the same transactions, but in the first alternative of the block, you have a big buy order. And then the second alternative, you have a big sell. And it's really up to the miner who profits or benefits the most. And the miners actually exploit this. It's called miner extracted value, where they try to profit themselves from middling with the state. This is Bitcoin Cash. And on Bitcoin Cash, you have what's called a direct acyclic graph, which basically means that every transaction you do is linked to a previous transaction. So the order within a block doesn't matter at all, because the state is dependent, is directly linked to a previous transaction. And you might think, like, these points are a given, like, why wouldn't you support this? Well, with Bitcoin Cash, you can actually, when you do a trade, you know the exact price you're getting from the trade, including slippage. You're not competing with anyone else in the mempool. And you know a transaction will succeed or it will not happen at all. You don't have like a condition where you submit a trade, and the price moves too much, so it fails, but you're still paying network fee. That can happen on Ethereum and similar chains. And finally, there is no waiting on block confirmation. You know instantly when you submit a transaction that this is the outcome. This is the exact outcome. You can continue, you can do other trades, you can withdraw the funds, and whatever. And so, even though Bitcoin Cash is late to the game, we can definitely compete. Finally, to my builders, I would like to talk about perhaps a way to architecture our DeFi contracts. In the late 70s, early 80s, there was something called a philosophy emerged called Unix Philosophy. And it's basically write programs that do one thing and do it well, write programs that work together, and write programs to handle text streams, because that's a universal interface. And with that, you get something like this. You know, it's the same tools as back in the 80s, but we still use them today. In the first example, I'm using 3 different tools to find white papers about electronic cash. In the second example, I'm converting a collection of pictures into icons. And I think we can have tools like this on Bitcoin Cash. And we have some already. We have AuthGuard contract, which protects the BCMR metadata, or token metadata, and also the token reserve. It's made by Matthew Gawkins and Bitcoin Cash autists. Cauldron can work this way. Via an Oracle contract, they can work this way. Can be combined with multiple other contracts. And also I noticed in the previous slides, or previous presentation, that you were talking about using multiple contracts with CashScript. It would work in this, work into that. And like here is a hypothetical example of how you might combine what we have already into a transaction. Say you have a transaction, a token called beer, or ticker beer. But when it's a bull market, you're allowed to change the ticker to bull. So you would use the AuthGuard contract to do the renaming. You could throw in a Cauldron contract for just yield boosting it from a token reserve, because it's time to celebrate. You have the Oracle contract, just to tell you that it's actually a bull market. And for good measure, I threw in wrapped BCH. You can unwrap some BCH to pay for the network fee. Finally, there's a magical contract which ties it all together. That doesn't exist, but it's a hypothetical example. So yeah, I'm just showing what could be done if you had like this tool set. So maybe you can adopt this 40-year-old philosophy. Write contracts that do one thing, do it well. Write contracts that work together. write contracts to handle NFT inputs, because NFT inputs is a universal language in cash script, or cash, BitcoinCash. Mixing those two. I'm going to give you some numbers of how it's going with Cauldron. We have 2,000 active liquidity pools. In total of 7,000 have been deployed. We have 100,000 transactions for trades. Yeah. On average, every trade has 3 Cauldron contracts into it. So it's 300,000 contract interactions. We have a total value locked of 150 BCH. That's not much. But the volume is 16 times higher than the total value locked, which is interesting. That means we have quite a yield, which would be equivalent of 80 BCH, but it's in both token and BCH. And we have 250 unique LP providers. So if I were to guess how many users, I haven't done blockchain analysis, I would think there are at least 10 users for every LP provider. So maybe 2,500 users. Yeah, here's me and Halvor celebrating the launch of Cauldron. Don't be afraid to, unlike emergent reasons, I'm going to say, don't be afraid to launch early. We didn't even have a decentralized exchange when we launched. We just had one token that could be swapped back and forth. And celebrate your achievements. This year we are going to complete our work on making DeFi loans on BitcoinCash. And what is nice about DeFi loans is that it goes hand in hand with having a stable asset. You can create a stable asset by having the BCH in a loan contract as collateral to the stable asset. And we can do this on BCH. Because you can do everything on BCH. It's powerful. So yeah. Finally, I'd like to say thank you to our Flipstarter contributors. I met a few of you this conference. You made it possible to get this far this year. Yeah, thank you.
Do we have some questions? I've got a question. Oh, we got one up the back here.
Can you explain how a 0% interest loan would work using Cauldron DEX?
Do we have 20 minutes?
Maybe we'll get a beer later.
Yeah, let's do that. You can also talk to... There are more people here in the crowd that have looked at it and understand how it works. So,
My question is, you've successfully launched Cauldron and you got actually quite a big Flipstarter, and you've done a really good job of getting a team together and delivering a product and everything like that. Do you have any recommendations for new developers coming into the BCH scene as to how they can replicate that in starting their own project?
Oh, that's a difficult question. Well, do things fast and break stuff. Yeah. Just show your product if you have something going on. See who is interested. Try to do fun stuff because people will follow you. Yeah.
Yeah. So on the point, it's funny. Yeah, move fast and break things. But also, could you go back to the slide about the BCH philosophy that you put up there? Yeah, this is a great one. This philosophy has served the software engineering ecosystem for decades, and it's been a very good, persistent philosophy that's worked very well, and I think this will apply very well. And this means even if you do move a little bit fast, it's going to be much easier to be confident about the contracts that you make if you do them to do one thing and do it well. So yeah, this is absolutely a great philosophy.
Yeah, you can build on stuff made by others that is well tested, battle tested.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So sorry, I didn't have a question. I just wanted to reemphasize that this is a fantastic slide that he made here.
Right, so you shit on your point and you just say, yeah, this is great. No, spot on. All right, next one.
What happens to the LP yield? Where does it go?
It collects into the contract itself.
Okay.
So it just gets more money into a liquidity pool.
Okay. And so is there any sort of profit model or anything like that? Or is it...
For Cauldron DEX?
Yeah, or for other stakeholders?
Well, to begin with is building a massive user base, because we know that's possible on BitcoinCash. Then we have a platform with a lot of users that have a lot of money, and we go from there.
Something that came up in the discussion earlier at this conference was a kind of business model for Cauldron, because obviously there is no specific token, like no governance token or no... but the idea, there is the option, if this scales big and it becomes more sustainable, of course, if there is a recurring profit. So there could be a kind of front-end fee added to the contract, I think, right? So front-end providers could, for the service, of course, of running the website and running this interface, designing it, keeping it up to date or improving it. There is the option in the contract to do something like this, or could this be like monetized by others who use the Cauldron contracts?
There is no limitation in the contract to do this, so you can, of course, add some fees to yourself.
Yeah, so this opens up like a business model if people want to pursue this.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
First of all, thank you for the presentation and congratulations with this milestone. You were just talking about building the user base. Now, what I noticed is that on where you see all the different DEXs, that is the webpage dexscreener.com, and I cannot find Cauldron and also not Bitcoin Cash. To grow the user base, and that's not only for you, but for all of them, can we maybe put Cauldron and Bitcoin Cash on this website? Because all the DeFi enthusiasts are looking daily at that page. So something to consider.
We have taken the time to make DeFi Llama adapters. But there are many projects out there that have specific requirements, API requirements. Like, I would also like to see all the cash tokens on CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko. These also require some APIs to be developed. But yeah, absolutely, we should use the platforms that exist, and we know like the GGens are. Yeah.
Could you go back to the slide that had everything getting poured into the one transaction? Yeah, that one. All right, so I guess less of a question, more of a statement and observation. When Cash Tokens was first released, a lot of the community was playing with this idea of not promoting BCH as a smart contract chain, but a smart transaction chain. And I really think that this image shows that really well, because those are multiple contracts, all in one transaction, all doing different things, interacting with each other, really going back to a lot of the previous presentations throughout this whole conference. The composability of BCH and with the UTXO model is just absolutely brilliant. And I wanted to just give you kudos for figuring out the swap contract, because that's really cool. And just showing the composability here, I think was really valuable. So smart transactions, I think, is the way we should be pushing this forward as far as how we talk about it, separating that from the contract, because the contract would be something you do with CashScript.
I like it. Smart transactions. Good.
All right, put your hands together for Dagur.